wasn't really sure what it was, and it shocked me, though, because it was big.
There's been guests that have left before their full night's over. They didn't want their money back, they just wanted out.
I'm just astonished of what I actually captured over there. I don't know what it is, I don't know how to explain it.
I'm a believer now after staying at the Olivier House Hotel.
Everyone who worked in my shop had continuous experiences. A couple people did stop working there because they couldn't handle it.
Oh, we got lots of orbs right here.
They kept them alive as long as they could while they were torturing them.
Is in very critical condition.
33 inmates died that night. The penitentiary is haunted.
The prison is haunted. I saw somebody falling over the railing, and I said, get away from the railing, you're gonna fall.
I was actually looking over the railing at the bottom floor. Elizabeth started going, move, you're going over the railing. You're gonna fall over the railing. The penitentiary is haunted.
Because of what I went through and what I felt, I absolutely think that Archie is haunting the prison. He was the #1 snitch.
My ghost story began when I heard that the state penitentiary in New Mexico was haunted. My neighbor was a guard there, and I asked him if I could get in.
Honor Langwell called me and invited me to go to the prison in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where the riot had begun in 1980.
The riot happened on February 2nd. This was the worst riot in the nation.
It was a maximum security men's prison.
33 inmates died that night. A few inmates had homebrew, which is like moonshine. They said, that's it, we're drunk, we're gonna take over the prison. Security there was lacking.
They didn't have enough help, really. They didn't have enough experience either.
The inmates overtook the guard, and they used them as hostages. So they got the keys to everything. They had controls to everything, so everything was wide open. The snitches in protective custody were free.
The snitches have to be housed because they will snitch on the other prisoners in order to get extra stuff from the officers.
The snitches were the primary targets.
One of the inmates who was struck in the head with a meat cleaver is in very critical condition.
Stab or hatchet-type wounds, lacerations, multiple injuries.
A lot of them were stabbed, burnt alive.
They kept them alive as long as they could while they were torturing them. They took axes and they cut off their heads.
An inmate was decapitated. They took his head and put it on a steel rod and marched it up and down the hallway.
They cut off their privates with the blowtorch.
The vatos that work in the kitchen, they don't get paid.
Check out that lieutenant we have. He's white.
Move it out, move it out. Let's go, move it, move it,
It lasted for 36 hours.
Then they got negotiations to where they wanted more food and better housing.
8 of the 12 guards that were there that night were brutally beaten, raped, and stabbed. None of them died, thankfully. The riot started because the facility was just inadequate.
They had too many men in there, for one thing. They had 1,136. It was only made for 900.
Guards would mentally and physically abuse them. They had rotten food. Thanksgiving dinner, they got green, smelly turkey. A lot of them were very ill that evening. And they got tired of it.
They really needed some help. The prison is haunted.
The paranormal activity going on there is from the inmates that have not left.
I believe they're ghosts. I've seen them, so I know that they are there, and I could feel the torture. My psychic abilities started when I was a young child, and my mother had it, and I guess I got it from her. The feeling, I guess, is what you would call it. I like it because it does help. I was head of search and rescue for the Sheriff's Department in Albuquerque, New Mexico for 24 years. We'd have like a little child who was gone for 3 days, but yet I could feel that they were still alive.
When we first entered the prison, it was about 8 o'clock at night, and we were the only ones there.
The whole prison had a horrible feeling to it.
The hairs on my arms would start to go up, and I had chills all over me. It was like a heavy, heavy feeling of hatred. Everything is still the way it was. There's paint falling from the ceilings. The windows are all broken out. The burn marks are still there from where different people were actually burned with the torch. There's the hatchet marks on the ground. The pharmacy department was raided. The only room that really looked fine was the gas chamber room. They went crazy in that prison.
I could feel through every step I took in that prison, I could feel. I started getting the feelings that I was being pulled. And I didn't even know I was walking when I started walking.
We were walking towards the main hallway, and she stopped instantly.
All of a sudden, I felt this cold air. It was like an air conditioner coming up on me. And every time I moved, the cold air went with me. There was no windows, there was no air conditioner, nothing but hallway.
I grabbed my camera and I did the video, and at that time you could see about 3 to 4 orbs entering my girlfriend Elizabeth.
Oh. Elizabeth, just stay right there for a minute. There's an orb going around. Oh, we got lots of orbs right here. Don't move, Elizabeth.
I was frozen solid. I was like a piece of ice. I couldn't move.
It's cold, freezing cold here. 3 of them just went into Elizabeth. Oh, gee.
I've never been afraid of anything like that because nothing has ever hurt me. But this time, when she said that they went into me, my mother's voice kept coming back saying, be sure and fight and get it out of you. You don't want it in you because it can take over your body. And so I started trying to fight the orb to come out of me.
All right, one just left.
When they got out of me is when I was able to start moving. I believe the orbs are from the riot, absolutely, because I felt the torture that they were going through.
We were at the second tier, and it was a very eerie feeling.
We went into a cell, and I sat down on the stool, and then all of a sudden, my eyes started getting on fire. They were crying. I mean, my eyes just burned horribly bad.
And I went up to her and I shook her, and she opened her eyes, and her eyes were pure red.
I had to get out of that room. When I tried to get up, my chest started hurting really bad, and I thought I was going to have a heart attack. It turned out to be that I found the right cell that had one of the worst snitches that they got.
One of the inmates' names was Archie Martinez. He was known as the biggest snitch, so everybody wanted to get to Archie. We found out that Archie was brutally beaten up and kept awake with smelling salt.
And they kept him awake while they gouged out his eyes with a screwdriver. And then they had the blowtorches, and that's when they went for the chest. And then they went to his privates. I really felt like I was being tortured. I was reliving what he was going through.
I believe when he was dying, he was in so much pain with the eyes, and that he could reflect that onto my friend. We were going around a corner, and at the same time, we said, what the heck was that? We both saw a black figure.
I saw the image of a man walking.
I just clicked pictures for about 10 minutes. They're within seconds of each other. The first one, there's nothing there. The second one, there's a black figure there.
He looks like he's wearing prison clothes, and I see no feet and no hands. And when I saw the man, I didn't see any hands or feet. I believe it was Archie Martinez, an inmate from the riot.
I think that maybe Archie stayed with us for the day. I think he was trying to relate what was done to him during the riot. I do believe some of the orbs were inmates that just linger in the prison because they have nowhere else to go.
Until something is done with that prison, they have to tear it down. I really don't believe that they're going to leave until something is done, because they can't rest. Evidently, they can't rest.
I saw this black shadow come out from a bunker, a concrete bunker.
If something comes from down there, I'll shoot it.
I wasn't sure if I was losing my mind or what. We're from different parts of the state, and we're brought together, sort of a family together, to go over in Iraq and do a mission.
Right after high school, after graduation of 2007, I signed up for the National Guard. Wasn't even sure what I was signing up for, but I did.
I arrived in Iraq on May 5th. You know, it's one of those kind of days you're not going to forget. You get off that C-130 and that 130-degree weather just hits you in the face. It's like, holy cow, it's like, what the heck did I get myself into here, you know?
You couldn't see the sky, really. You could say that it was kind of blue, but it wasn't. It was just dusty. You see, like, palm trees, but they weren't green. They were dusty green.
It was a strategic area for the Iraqi army when they were fighting against Iran. Me being a tactical operations officer for the battalion, what my job was to make sure that when these pilots go out and do their mission, that they come back safe. I'm responsible for the electronic warfare equipment that's on the aircraft. It's a 12-hour day, 7 days a week. There were times, some stressful times when we would get rocket attacks, and it keeps you on edge, that's for sure.
Out of nowhere, you just hear like something coming, and you just hear boom. And of course, the ground shook.
My ghost story started on June 12th at 10:50 p.m. And that's the night that I saw a black shadow figure pass in front of me, a night that I'll never forget. Probably not more than 12 to 15 feet away. I see this black mass. It's almost like a black figure wearing like a hood over its body, like a black blanket or something like that. It had absolutely no legs. It was just bizarre. Up until this point, you know, nothing's ever happened to me in life as far as something paranormal. I mean, it just doesn't happen to Rick McClellan.
So he told me about this black shadow that he saw. I was like, wow, like, really?
That was really the beginning of our relationship as far as, you know, trying to figure out, like, what the heck this thing is. There was this bunker that's an old bunker. It's built in the 80s. There were everywhere. Saddam Hussein that was his way of protecting his air bases. I had talked to some of the locals, and they said, you want some answers? Try looking in some of these bunkers. You may be able to find what you're looking for, you know?
The only thing we had was just a tape recorder. And it's really scary because it's really dark in there.
They're partially underground. They're made out of concrete. They're very thick concrete. They have no windows in them. There's one way in and one way out. And the way you get in these things, you have to walk down this 15-foot corridor. It's dark. There's no electric in these places. Before I ever attempted to go down in one, I always made sure I threw a rock or something like that down the corridor, because I wasn't about to go down in one of these things and get surprised. All right, any animals? Get out of here.
I'm like, I hope there's nothing down here, to be honest, because I really don't want to see nothing.
We're asking some questions, some basic, simple questions about, you know, like, has there anyone been killed down here? Has anyone lost their life? Are you from the Iraqi army? Things like that. So we were down there for about an hour or so, and nothing really happened, you know. We just, okay, we took our voice recorder and basically left. So I downloaded software onto my laptop, and you hear, just as clear as day, a woman's voice saying, I love you. And a short pause, and then shalom. I think all the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I'm like, holy cows, what? And I'm like, what is this? Shalom. That's a Hebrew term meaning, peace. It's sort of used as a greeting. Why in the world would the word shalom be in an Iraqi bunker?
Why would a woman say, I love you, down in a dark bunk? It was very scary, knowing that there's actually something down there.
I contacted my wife, right after that, and I started explaining to her some of the stuff that was going on, and she was really starting to get concerned. But I was determined to get to the bottom of it. So I told my wife, I said, you know what, hey, send that camcorder that we have. Maybe I can figure out what's going on here.
Every time when I actually walked in, I always pray, because I don't want that to attach to me. I don't want it to harm me, anything like that. I don't know if it was demonic. I don't know if it was just a spirit roaming around. Nobody knows. So during those times, I was just praying.
The next time we went down there, we had the video camera this time, and I just put the video camera on a ledge and let that roll. And the next day, I'm reviewing the footage, and this black mass, probably maybe the size a little bit bigger than a beach ball, comes out of nowhere, just quickly disappears. I mean, split second, just disappears, almost as if it didn't want to be seen. This black mass appears where my back was sitting against the wall. And it looked really odd because it sort of comes out of nowhere. It just appears and then just quickly disappears. I mean, split second, just disappears. And then it would disappear and then reappear down in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And it would disappear again and then pop somewhere else. This thing was popping back and forth. It was very erratic, no really set pattern.
You see a light. It's just a Christmas light, you could say. That just goes like that, and then it just stops. And then you start seeing the black shadow.
It was like it wanted to feel a human presence. It wanted to feel my body heat against the concrete wall because it appeared exactly where I was sitting against the wall. And that happened more than once. That was the first time we saw it on video. A month later, we captured it again, and then it appeared 2 more times right where my back was leaning against the wall, as if to say, hey, I want to know who you are. I want to get to know you. I'm starving for human companionship or something. It was very, very strange how this entity appeared where I was leaning against the wall.
I was like, what the? It just scared me at the same time. It was just spooky, because you don't know if it's demonic spirit.
I don't know what it is. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know if I'll ever know what it is.
Back in my mind, I was like, oh my God, what the hell am I doing here again? Hopefully that thing does not attach to me. I really don't want to bring nothing back home.
The last thing in the world I would have thought I was going to be doing was having, paranormal encounters. It was the last thing I would have ever dreamed that was going to happen to me over there. It definitely has changed my life.
And I take a look back at things like the investigation that we have done and all that stuff down the bunker. I know that there's something out there, paranormal. I know that for a fact.
And I'm just astonished of what I actually captured over there. I love you, shalom. That is absolutely the most strangest thing I've ever heard. Whether it was a trapped spirit, someone reaching out, someone who was lonely, I don't know. Being deployed is a stressful situation, and the hardest part of the deployment is being away from your family and friends.
Seeing my mom, she was just seeing my family, my dad and my mom. Just seeing them was I was really happy that I'm back home, you know? Because over there in the war, it's time to feel alone. So it was just something really good coming back home.
You know, being away for that length of time, coming home and seeing my family was just fantastic. It was just a joy you just can't imagine unless you've actually done it.
You could hear footsteps coming up through the hallways. There's something in here with me.
There was no one in here.
I need to get out of this room.
I've lived in Hot Springs, Arkansas for over 20 years now. Downtown Hot Springs is known for ghostly activity in all the pubs and the spas. Everyone seemed to have a ghost in this town. A lot of people do like to go from one haunted hotel to another, and one of the most haunted locations in historic downtown is the Majestic Hotel.
I've been a police officer for over 14 years in the central Arkansas area. I live less than 20 miles from the Majestic. I've seen its good days and its bad days, all the way up to the Majestic has closed its doors. Hot Springs, back in the early 1900s, was a paradise for gangsters. Al Capone, his gang, came down there often to the Majestic Resort and Spa. So it drew a lot of people from the good to the bad.
The Majestic has seen its share of death over the years.
Many people say that there's ghosts in there, that they've seen things happen in there. There's been guests that have left before their full night's over. They were scared to be in there because they would have such profound experiences. They didn't want their money back, they just wanted out. There's been several murders, suicides in the area, people leaping to their death from the windows. It has a pretty dark side to it with all the death and murders and things that happen there. I myself spoke to a security guard who works there, who's hired to protect this property, to make rounds. And he's told me about experiences that he's had that were so real to him that there's areas in the hotel he won't go in. And he's told his boss that, you know, if you can't be happy with that, you know, I need to find me another job.
After it was shut down, I brought a friend of mine who's a police officer, and he happens to be trained and certified in the use of a thermal imaging camera.
I'm a certified thermographer. I went to training to learn how to use thermal imaging cameras. It's a very intricate piece of equipment. It reads surface temperature, basically, and everything, whether it has electrical current going through it or a human or animal, gives off a heat signature. The spa area is approximately 40 to 50 feet in length and probably 25 to 30 feet in width. Each side of the walls are lined with individual bathing stalls. Each individual has their own curtains. There were several tables in the middle that lined the entire length of the area. And of course, there were spaces on each side of the tables where people could walk around.
When I'm confronted with a haunted location and I have to walk in the darkness from one point to the other, there is a kind of a wrenching in your gut and a little nervousness, and you sometimes feel like there's something right at the back of your neck. All the hair stands up on your arms.
We had several instances around the spa and the hallways that we heard voices. All of a sudden you hear something whisper in your ear that you know is a voice. And you turn around, there's nothing there. There was nobody within 30 feet of me, and I literally felt a finger run up my side. I jumped in the air probably 2 or 3 feet and yelled, and Karen turned around and said, "What's wrong? What are you doing?" I said, "Something just touched me."
It just felt like somebody just rubbed my back.
When you get touched and know that there's nobody that is within arm's reach of you, and there's no way anybody living could have touched you, and it's something you physically feel going into your skin, that's just awesome to me.
Things began to happen. I was shooting, with a super night shot camera into that area to get as wide a view as I could.
Okay, is there anyone here that would like to communicate with us?
He was the only other person in the room, and he was over to my left holding the thermal camera so that he could see that there was no one in there.
Is there anyone here that could show themselves?
I happened to be looking in the right area with my thermal imaging camera And suddenly this curtain, like somebody just grabbed the bottom of it and shot straight to the ceiling with it.
Oh my God, what was that?
Now, I was using my thermal imaging camera. There was nobody in that room. Nothing in there giving off a heat signature whatsoever.
Wow.
The curtain flew up into the air and paused for half a second and then came right back down just as if gravity was taking it back to the ground. And then 2 to 3 seconds later, there was a glass busting.
Oh my God.
I wasn't really sure what it was, and it shocked me, though, because it was big, and my heart was pounding so fast from that, I really didn't even hear the bulb burst. There was a roaring in my ears.
I don't know, but there was something, I don't know what it was. Was it a...
The first thought that ran in my head is, I need to get out of this room because there's something in here with me.
What is that like? What is that?
My friend Chad yelled at me and said, Karen, there was no one in this room. There's no one near this room.
I felt butterflies in my stomach, and I just wanted to know what caused that. That was insane. My heartbeat was just out of this world. It was beating harder than I've ever had it for. Thank God, it scared the shit out of me. But I couldn't. I was kind of locked into where I was at, so I thought, well, let's go check this out. It was less than 15 to 20 seconds, long enough for me to think, oh my God, what have I just seen, and to process this in my mind. Then I wanted to know what caused this, and I immediately went right to where that curtain was. I examined it, and when we were down there, Karen pointed out, well, here's what busted right here, and there was a light bulb laying on the floor that was never there. And that was just immediately after it occurred. Now, I had been in this area several times prior to that evening. There was no busted light bulbs in the area. I don't have an explanation for it. I checked the area where we found the light bulb busted with a thermal imaging camera. In my opinion, there was nothing man-made, or there was nothing living in the area when that curtain flew up into the air.
When I finally got the chance to run the camera back and to look at the footage, of course you're elated and you're excited to capture something that there's no explanation for. There are 2 security guards downstairs at the time, and we were able to show them the footage, and they were amazed and told me that they wouldn't even go into that area.
In my 14 years of law enforcement, I've learned a little bit about the human nature, the human psyche, how people react. There's actions that people can't fake, and when this happened that night, I looked around. The look on people's faces there is something you can't act. You can't make chill bumps come up on the back of your neck on cue. You can't make the hair stand up. You can't lose your ability to speak for a few minutes on cue. Those are things that can't be faked, and that's what I saw that night.
I've always known that there was something more out there. I've come to realize that ghosts do exist too. We share our space with them. We don't know why they're here, but I do know that they are here.
This night that I experienced at the Majestic has really caused me to think a lot. Who's to say there's not an afterlife that you can't go to and interact with people if you choose to do so? Now, I think about that not often, and wonder, am I going to be able to visit my family somehow that won't give them a heart attack after I'm gone?
It felt like I was in a tub of ice water. I couldn't move my limbs, but I could move my eyes. Whatever this was didn't have good intentions toward me.
It's got to be Elizabeth. What else could it be? Since staying at the Olivier House Hotel, I do believe that there's another dimension.
Truly think that there's something in that hotel that has the potential to manifest itself and move things around or manipulate things that we take for granted. My ghost story began in room 104 at the Olivier House Hotel.
My ghost story began in room 206 at the Olivier House Hotel.
The Olivier House Hotel is in the heart of the French Quarter in New Orleans, Louisiana.
I've stayed at the Olivier House Hotel 20 times. Room 206 is our favorite room.
I've stayed at the Olivier House Hotel a total of 4 times. The last time was different. I stayed in room 104, and I'd never stayed in that room before. And I never will again. I've never stayed at the hotel since that night because I'm scared.
The Olivier House got its name from the people who built it, the Olivier family back in the 1800s. Elizabeth de Parc-Lacoule, she was the grande dame of the sugar plantation. The Olivier House was one of her summer homes. She liked the Olivier House the best because it was right next to the old Opera House. At one point during the Civil War, Union soldiers came into New Orleans. They took over her home and used it as their headquarters. It wasn't a very good experience for her. She got the house back after the war. Elizabeth died in 1895, and she died there in the house. Elizabeth haunts the hotel just to keep an eye on who stays there, because if you're from the North, she might not like you because of the problems that she had with the Union soldiers during the Civil War. And to make sure that anybody who does come there knows she comes with it. When you come stay at the Olivier House Hotel, you're gonna be checking in with her.
My mother is a desk clerk at the hotel. I heard a bunch of times from my mother that people have had experiences at the hotel, supernatural experiences. Well, I'd heard a couple occasions where guests would leave the middle of the night saying they saw a woman in an antebellum dress. I didn't necessarily believe in all those things, but now having experienced it firsthand, I know for a fact that there are things that we can never explain. I don't think that Jerry's experiences were as negative as mine.
It all depends on what mood Elizabeth's in. Room 206 was Elizabeth's parlor. We always bring flowers and candy for her, and as soon as we open the door, it's, "Hey, Elizabeth, we're back. Thanks for letting us stay here."
A buddy of mine works in the French Quarter. He come and hung out at the hotel. We're kind of just joking around because I'd heard from my mother that it was a haunted room. We kind of started laughing about it and saying, oh, maybe if there's a ghost here, maybe it'll, show itself. I didn't really think much of it at the time. In retrospect, it was probably a bad idea. She did not approve of my jokes and disrespect. I learned that the hotel room had been her bedroom and that she died in that room. I think that her having died in the room may have had something to do with what I experienced. My friend goes to work and I'm in the room by myself. So that's when I went into the bathroom and I took a bath. That's when the first strange events happened to me. I heard tapping along the room. Someone was making random taps around the center of the room. The eerie part was the distinct feeling like I wasn't alone in the room. Finally go to sleep around 12. I didn't go out that night. At 3:30, I woke up. It felt like I was in a tub of ice water, like just freezing. My whole body was cold. I couldn't move my limbs, but I could move my eyes. I just couldn't move. My heart was beating a mile a minute, and my adrenaline was jacked up. And that's when I saw a white orb of light expanded a little bit more vertically. It was vibrating with luminance coming from the top and the bottom, going down. It was alive, didn't feel friendly. Distinctly felt like it was aware of me. And then it came around the bed, to the front of the bed. The worst part was not being able to move, and that the feeling that whatever this was didn't have good intentions toward me. And that's when it went off to the left. I had to get out. Right when I made that thought is when it came back around into the front. Felt like it was looking at me, and then it zipped out. Almost like it just took off, like through a wall, just really fast. As soon as it took off, I could move again. I just knew I had to get out. I knew I had to get out of the room. So I just walked right outside the room and told the night clerk what had happened. I was just really frazzled. He went and got my toothbrush and stuff and brought it back out to me, and then I went home. I'm 100% sure that it wasn't a dream, that this really happened to me. This is the most terrifying experience I've ever had.
We've had numerous things happen. We were sitting there having a cigarette. We heard noise out on Bourbon Street, so of course went out on the balcony to look, see what's going on. And when we come back in, the ashtray's gone. And Sitting there on the coffee table was this bottle of water. We didn't even have any water with us, but this water appeared. It had to have been Elizabeth. There was no other explanation except Elizabeth. She undoubtedly didn't like smoking. I was trying to get the chain lock on the door, and finally I got it hooked on. The next morning we woke up and the chain lock was off the door. It really weirded me out. I was standing up on the stairwell and I hollered at Trace to turn around, so I could take a picture, get home, have the picture developed, and there are 12 orbs floating in that picture. A floating orb is a sign of a spirit, and yeah, Elizabeth is there. In another photo, you can see a vision, a ghosty image of a lady in a dress. She's there.
The photo I saw looked like a silhouette of a woman in an antebellum style dress. Yeah, I think it is Elizabeth in the photo. I won't go back because I think Elizabeth LeCool never left, and I don't think she's gonna leave as long as the place stands.
Odd things started happening.
A metal grate flew off the wall and almost hit Amy in the head. I'm freaked out. Why aren't you freaked out? I'm like, because I know who this is.
I don't know too many people who can say that they've been alone with an angel.
My ghost story begins when my mother came and visited me 6 months after she had died. I opened my shop about 2004, and before I had opened it, I had started doing freelance floral all around Austin, Texas, and I had been toying with the idea of becoming an entrepreneur. I had been talking with my mother a whole bunch about it. She was the person I'd called 8, 10, 12 times a day. She was my best friend in the whole world. And she said, I'm gonna give you X amount of dollars, and I'm gonna make sure that you survive. So I shopped around and I found the perfect little location that I could start my whole dream, which was going to be a flower boutique. And with the help of my mother, she came out and helped me open Flora and Fauna. Literally 3-4 months later, she's admitted into the ER. And they have found that she has stage 3 cancer. So we all came out as a family. And we all surrounded her, and we all put our arms around her, and she was amazing. She looked so beautiful. We didn't know how long she had. And we left, not knowing, thinking maybe this was the last time we'd see her, and it was. Because next time we came out, she had slipped into a coma, and she was gone. Before my mom died, I asked her, will you please come see me? Please, just come see me. And she said, Carissa, if I can, if I'm allowed to, I will, and you'll know it.
I started working at Flora and Fauna in February of 2008. When I first met Carissa, she told me that her mom had passed away about a year before. I was really moved by, how sad she was. Carissa is all about love, and she's a phenomenal florist. The shop was so just adorable. It was a great space. Within the first few days of being there, odd things started happening.
Amy would tell me all the time about weird, freaky things that were happening to her while she was at the shop.
Most things that I experienced happened when I was by myself. Light bulbs just always seemed to go out.
I had to replace light bulbs continuously.
I'd be sitting at the computer and it would just go off, on, off, on, off, on, no explainable reason.
These were brand new computers, turning off randomly.
The printer, I was up front, and all of a sudden I hear the printer in the back going off, and it just starts shooting out page after page after page, and the computer in the back was off. So I'm trying to turn the printer off, and it keeps, just shooting out paper, and I'm like, what is going on? I was like, okay, just take a step away. The Flora and Fauna vortex. This is kind of what I thought of it. You know, you go into Flora and Fauna and you never know what's gonna happen. The sink in the bathroom had a mind of its own. I would go to the bathroom, turn the sink off, you know, shut the door, go out front, and then all of a sudden I'd hear the faucet on. I don't know how many countless times that happened.
My shop definitely had an energy to it, a very, very strong energy. If the energy was good in it, it was incredibly good. If it was bad, it was incredibly bad. And it was freaky. A metal grate flew off the wall and almost hit Amy in the head.
On 3 different occasions, it actually fell out of the wall and almost on me. And that was really scary, and you know, there was no reason for it to happen.
Everyone who worked in my shop had continuous experiences. Always talking about, Carissa, I don't know what happened last night, but someone came and grabbed my shoulder. A couple people did stop working there because they couldn't handle it. Right around the time when all of this starts happening, my security cameras that I had installed 2 years prior are malfunctioning regularly. Finally, called an IT guy and I said, I need somebody to come out and help me with these, you know, video cameras. That morning, and he comes over and makes sure that my computers are now functioning, changed my cameras around, and everything now is working. And I come back in on Monday morning, and I turn it on, and all of a sudden, I have, from about 2:50 in the morning, all the way to like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. And the first footage is this clouded substance that keeps moving around my shop. And when it would go in front of light, it would move in front of light and illuminate into this big, bright, white light. I was like, this is not a spider. There's this one piece where you can see the cheekbone, the chin, and the eye. And I sat back and I smiled and I was like, hi, how you doing? Crazy lady. And everyone who came and saw it was just like, you have to call somebody. Yeah, I'm freaked out. Why aren't you freaked out? I'm like, because I know who this is. I have this picture of my mother when she was in her 20s, and I put it up next to it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is you. And it was so cool because it's the shape of her jawline. It's the shape of my jawline. It's the shape of my sister's jawline. That was probably the concrete moment in my heart where I knew this was her.
My jaw dropped. I mean, that was incredibly powerful. You know, her mom was reaching out to her. She wanted her to know that she was there, and she did everything she could do to communicate that to Carissa.
And then comes along this friend of mine, you know, and I tell her the story, and she looks at me and she's like, that's amazing. She said, do you need anything? I said, yes, I need a financial investor. And she comes back around 2 months later about, she said, your story of your mother touched me so much that I've healed my relationship with mine. She said, my mom's about to die. She said, I know that someone needs to take care of you. And I decided that needs to be me because your mother would want that to be me. And she handed me $20,000 and it saved my business. She said, I am your angel now. I am your angel. You have to call me.
I think anybody that hears the story and, you know, knows Carissa is blessed. It's just a really beautiful thing.
I haven't felt her presence in a while. Maybe I'm in a better place, and so maybe she thinks I don't need her as much. But, you know, she'll always be my angel mom.